Hello and welcome to the very last episode of Rights and Recourse, a program that tackles constitutional, human rights and legal issues, bringing you information and analysis. My name is Dumila Mateza. Remember, you can also be part of our discussion today by calling us on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Rights and Recourse. Alternatively, you can email your thoughts about this program and many others that we have had before to Rights and Recourse at sabc.co.za. The multi-award-winning South African film Inxeba, The Wound, has been chastised by the Xhosa Royal House in South Africa and traditional leadership in general. It has been received with anger by some isiXhosa-speaking communities in the Eastern Cape, to an extent that screenings in the Eastern and Western Cape and later in the rest of South Africa were cancelled. This after the Film and Publication Board slammed it with an X-18 age restriction, a rating reserved for pornography. The actions of the Xhosa Royal House and the Xhosa communities and the Film and Publication Board has been criticized by human rights activists as akin to denying the makers of the movie freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It is akin, some say, to the action of apartheid South Africa. Today on Rights and Recourse, we explore the controversy around the film Inxeba, The Wound. But first, let's take a look at this insert. Please note that the following video contains strong language and graphic content which may be sensitive to some viewers and inappropriate for children.
Ukubuyela ndoni kule ndawo ngoku ayuzikhumbula iitshomi zakho gonya kubona uba unajomaka okanye itsheri yakho. Ndiyakubona uba uyintoni kodwa wena theni ngakho uyivume loo nto. Uyavuma songcolisa isiko wena pha utsho njani akhangathi kwatha
xa fika esiXhoseni akusithetha izinto zalapha nindile mkwethu.
To discuss a rather sensitive and controversial topic, we are joined in the studio in Johannesburg by Ms. Togum Kanazikaluva, chairperson of the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities. And at our Port Elizabeth studio, we'll be joined by Chief Mwelo Nonkonyana, chairperson of the Eastern Cape House of Traditional Leaders, and later on we'll be joined by a adjunct professor at the University of Cape Town, Nomboniso Kasai, a researcher and analyst on gender, politics, land and cultural issues. Lastly, we'd like to mention that we did invite the makers of the film, and they said that they were not at liberty to speak until the Film and Publication Board has given its reasons for the reclassification. The Film and Publication Board, on the other hand, also declined to participate in this program as they were awaiting the tribunal with its reclassification to confirm the reclassification of the film. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Thanks for having us.
Chief Nonkonyana, let me start with you. If there has been so much venom in the screening of Inxeba from the Xhosa Royal House and traditional leadership in general, how then do we boast about our cultures to the world?
Thank you very much and good afternoon, and even to the people who are watching this show. First and foremost, Dumile, I think the SABC itself is not sensitive. The excerpts that we have just aired now, we fundamentally object to them. And the reason why we do so, as you may know, the custom of initiation from boyhood to manhood is something that is close to our hearts, is something that needed to be practiced in a manner that everyone is sensitive to it, being something that must not be seen by every Tom, Dick and Harry, be it men who have not been circumcised, be it women. who will not undergo this initiation. So it is secret. That is why then we have got the words like ulwaluko, you know. When you talk about ingcibi, it's something that cannot be known by anybody. Clearly suggests, therefore, that this is matter that is very, very secret to the Xhosa nation. And again, I may indicate to you, we had an opportunity to view it, and when we view it, and then we then set out the grounds why we object that it be aired. First of all, because we cannot our thing that is so secretive like ulwaluko. And again, it is a distortion of what is actually taking place there. And we set out clearly, and we indicated the producers. That's why they have just run away. To indicate to them that they must come to the House of Traditional Leaders, and also to explain why His Majesty the King of Xhosa told them that you cannot hear this because it does not depict what our culture is all about. And they are not sensitive again because in the Eastern Cape we have passed a law in 2016, and everyone knows that the government of the Eastern Cape and traditional leaders in the Eastern Cape embarked on a program to have a zero death in initiation. Now, this film is promoting that, promoting the things that are not practices there. And to us, it is really an insult. A wound, it has just pierced a wound in our hearts. Hence, we have indicated that it should not be aired. Yes, we have received the news that it will be reclassified, but as far as our concern, it should not be viewed at all in South Africa. And the viewing of it will be objected by all of us and our communities, and we're very, very happy that after we embarked on a march which was led by Congress of Traditional Leaders in the ECA on the 2nd of February, and then all those business entities that were going to screen it decided then to withdraw it. We are very, very pleased about that because they are sensitive about it. After all, lastly, we indicated that we are keen to meet the producers, to explain to them, because it is not true that we are against the rights of the cultural groups who are against the right of expression. But we are of the view then that, those rights that are being advanced, they are advanced at the expense of the nation. Hence, we are of the view, therefore, that it should not be at all. In fact, it is an abomination, and it is a tantamount to sedition.
Well, the other question is, Mamkaluva, what has been the role of the Commission for promotion and protection of cultural rights and religious on this issue?
When we received a complaint from the King Sigao, we then said, okay, let's look at this film. Let's allow traditional leaders and religious leaders to have a look at the film. So fortunately, the distributors made the film available to us so that we could all view and see what are the issues, so that people don't say you complain based on a 3-minute trailer. Let's look at the whole thing. We discovered a few things. One of the things we said up front was that the issue of sexual orientation is a constitutional imperative. So we need to put that one aside. Let's look at the actual nitty-gritty of the problem. Part of it was that some secret and sacred issues have been portrayed by the movie. Part of it was the issue that certain things that are not supposed to be shown were shown. But also the language used was beyond graphic. It was also very derogatory to women as well. We found it extremely offensive. And the other issue was that, the issue of Jesus Christ and Shaka Zulu being probably gay was quite offensive to people who pride themselves in being Christians and being Amazulu. So the whole issue of bringing the initiation process into disrepute, since you're bringing in the language that is wrong, you're bringing in the processes that are wrong, outside the fact that there's a homosexual relationship. One of the things that were raised was that even if the other character had brought in his wife from home, it would have been unacceptable, because the issue of sex and initiation do not go hand in hand. There are many rules around those issues. So our point of departure when we approached the Films and Publications Board was that there's a challenge here, and it's a very serious challenge. We also thought the rights of children, according to the Constitution, a 16-year-old is a child. So we said we need to relook at the issues of children, whether children who are 16 years old would not go away with the wrong impression of what happens at initiation school. Most of them have not been to initiation school. So if their first idea of what is an initiation school is a very negative one, it might affect them. So part of what we motivated for was that there must be an increase in the age, and that there must be direct translation. There was a linguistic kind of prejudice happening there. The fact that I understand is Xhosa and the insults coming to my ears, I don't need to read what is written there, because it's all watered down stuff. What I'm hearing is very offensive, but what the other people who do not understand is Xhosa are reading as footnotes or whatever there. It's quite a watered down version, and we felt there was a linguistic oppression of people who understand is Xhosa, and it is a constitutional imperative. Let's all get embarrassed and angry when we watch the movie.
Well, if you'd like to join us in today's discussion, you can call us on 011 714 5497 5498 or tweet us at Recourse. When we come back, we'll also be joined by Ms. Nomboni Sogasa. Stay with us.
We take an in-depth look of all your stories of the day across the world. Stay tuned to Primetime News every day from 18 hours.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion on Ingleba the Wound, looking at issues pertaining to the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. I want to come back to you, Chief Mwelo Nongoyana. This is not the first time that the traditional leadership, especially of the Xhosa, have objected to a depiction of the custom, even on television, when they objected to an SABC drama depicting the custom. Umthunzi wendaba.
That's true. Indeed, that is why I initially indicated to you that we object that certain things must be actually shown on our national TV. And at that point in time, we were principled, and we stated clearly that we don't want that to happen. And we were agreed with the SABC. After all, because they have actually flouted our custom, we find SABC to cleanse that, because to us it was offensive, and we were very happy that the leadership of the SABC then agreed that it should not continue to do that. Now that that is coming, and of course by people who never consulted us, and by the people who are distorting everything that we stand for, by the people who should know that we have been fighting against foreign domination. And this wound has been given, we're told, prizes by the colonialists, the Western countries. They have never come to us to consult with us before. And clearly it is a strategy of those who want to continue to suppress us, to undermine whatever we do to really promote our well-being as Africans. Hence, therefore, we are really, really annoyed and about what has actually happened. I think the producers owe us a great deal. Even the actors, because some of the actors are Xhosa-speaking people, they are our subject. And as circumcised men, they know that they can't do what they have been caused to do. It is quite clear to us and obvious to us that the motive is money on their behalf. Because of lack of employment, they feel that they must actually ridicule our culture by being employed, by giving money, which means they are self-centered, they are very egotistic. Even the people who are actually, I'm sorry that the right cultural activists are not coming to the show, because they say, well, it is against the right of expression. What about the rights of the community? Yes, I've got the right.
Chief, let's further that, Nomboniso. Chief, let's that's the knob. Let's stay on that knob. The issue of freedom of expression. Nomboniso, good afternoon. Welcome to Rights and Recourse. The issues here has to do, many people are saying this is a violation of freedom of expression as contained in Section 16 of the Constitution.
Well, I mean, firstly, I want to congratulate the producers and the filmmakers of Inqeba. I think it's very important that we should have discourse on issues that we disagree on and on issues that are very, very difficult. I think it's important that when things happen in our communities, that we should live with that discomfort and address it, instead of wanting to sweep it under the carpet. Nkosi Nokonyane has referred to the law that they passed in the Eastern Cape in 2016 on zero tolerance of death in initiation schools. For many years before that, traditional leaders did not want that to be discussed. People had to push for that conversation to take place and had to push for legislation and certain amendments. There already are amendments that have taken place in initiation and circumcision. So let's not pretend here that nothing has changed and nothing is ever going to change. Number two, it's very important that we accept the fact that culture changes all the time and it interacts with people in society. Traditional leaders have a right to express their concerns, but they're not the only people who are vested in that culture. We are also vested in that culture. We are also the people who suffer certain consequences when certain practices take place. I had the fortune and the privilege, actually, of watching Inqeba. And I watched the Xhosa version with no subtitles. I actually found it to be very nuanced. When I watched it, I expected a completely different kind of film. I found it very nuanced.
Just hold it there. I just want to take this call from Simpiwe from Tembisa. Simpiwe, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Hello?
Yes, Simpiwe, siyakuva.
Okay. Mna usisiNomboniso lo yaniphoxa kakhulu. Kunento ezimbini okanye ezintathu eziyezibekwe kwindawo ngendawo. Bafana hloniphe umthetho wethu okokuqala. If ulijoni ungena emajonini enkampini amajoni, kunento ebhaliweyo pha xa ungenayo, no cameras are allowed there. Abantu bayayihlonipha loo ntetho loo nto kubhalwe no cameras are allowed there. You understand? It's not that asiyazi okanye abanye amajoni akayitsho into enzeka pha ngaphakathi. okanye ayaziwa kodwa inhlonipho yokuba kuthiwa no cameras allowed there. Why bangakwazi uhlonipha ngaloo ndlela? Because ehlathini there's no cameras allowed ehlathini. Same thing nakwicinema le kuyabhalwa ecinema ukuba no cameras are allowed there. You understand? Ngokunzima ngokuba xa kuzongenwa ehlathini ngoku ukwazi uba kuthathwe iikhamera zibekwe pha asinamsebenzi ukuthi kwenzeka ntoni kuneengxaki ngeengxaki ezenzekayo but the fact that kubhaliwe ukwazi uthobela umthetho wokuthiwa no cameras are allowed military camp, no cameras are allowed even cinema.
Thanks, Simpiwe. Thank you very much. We've heard what you are saying. I want to go back to Simpiwe saying people must follow the rules that are set. There are rules that are set. You don't come in with cameras. There are churches where you take off your shoes when you come into the church. You must take off your shoes before you come to the church. I want to go back to an issue you raised, Nomboniso, to Chief Nongonyana. Chief, there's been criticism, Nomboniso repeated that criticism, that namely that it is insensitive to that the traditional leadership have remained insensitive to the many deaths of initiates and not adequately address that issue. Is that the case?
No, not at all. In fact, I'm not surprised about her, since I think is one of our own people who are indoctrinated and who took upon themselves to insult us all the time. Let me tell you, besides the initiation of boys to manhood, there is also initiation of girls. In respect of those girls, we don't indulge. It is the women issue that, and we're supportive of that. Even in the initiation of boys, we are in the forefront, but the women are actually supportive of what we're doing. When we were called by the minister, for instance, women who are traditional leaders stated clearly that they will not, in terms of their custom, watch that thing. And they exercise their own free right not to watch it. And we applauded them, because they know that in terms of our custom, it is the matter that pertains to men and men alone. And all I can tell you is that, yes, we were aware of what actually took place since 1990, when the rights of the people were actually propagated, which many people thought that they were not existed before. Our people have got a right as such as we have got a right as traditional communities, and that is also enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. But what is actually happening is that there is an imbalance. The westernized norms are actually promoted at the expense of the African norms and values.
I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I asked specifically about what role have traditional leadership played in stemming the deaths of initiates at these initiation schools?
Yes, we were in the forefront. Hence, in fact, we presented the government, because actually what happened in 1990, the government took over this thing. It was the MEC for health in the Eastern Cape that was given power to administer this custom. And he said it is not. Hence, we say it was the tournament to the wrath of the ancestors. Hence, there were so many deaths. But when our people's legislature in the Eastern Cape acceded to our request and amended the law, since June last year, dramatically reduced. In December last year, they were reduced. In fact, many communities, when we are in charge, there's zero tolerance as I speak.
Mamkaluva, did you as a commission address the Film and Publication Board on this issue?
We did. Maybe let me start with the other issue. We've issued 2 reports on challenges in initiation schools. Last year, we even asked that in Gauteng, up to January next year, that initiation should be stopped because of the challenges that were in the initiation schools, that it was apparent that they can't be resolved while the problem is continuing. But with the issue of Ingleba, we did 2 things. First and foremost, we had to refine the complaint so that we narrow it down within a constitutional framework. But secondly, we engaged with the producers and the distributors, and we engage them in terms of them understanding the other side as well. Because I think the best thing is for people to start hearing one another. And I think this created an opportunity for us to all talk about how we feel about this. But we were challenged with them participating. We had another process about 2 weeks ago where we brought in all traditional leaders, the king from Amaxhosa, King Stau, Amazulu were represented, a variety of religious people were represented, and we invited the producers as well, so that we can mediate the situation and it becomes safe for people who have been acting in the movie, because we feel issues of violence, you know, it's not going to improve our arguments if we are violent. So part of what we wanted to do was to say a cessation of hostilities should happen, so that at least engagement can happen.
Engagement can take place.
Yes, and critical engagement, so that we can hear one another, and the producers can hear the other side, and the other side can hear the producers.
Let's take this call from Boise, from Benoni. Boise, good afternoon. Welcome to Rise and Recourse. Sikhona kunjani Boise? Boise, this is an English program, if you don't mind.
Ndizayibamba ngolwasekhaya lwesiXhosa olukayisa ulwimi. Tata, siyacela thina. Okokuqala nje into esasifuna inkululeko apha eMzantsi, sikhululeke. Sigcine izithethe namasiko wethu. Kodwa kukho le mikhandlu ekhona njengo right to know. Ne-equality. Zonke zonto ziyasimosha ngoku. Into esifunayo isiko lethu malingaphazanyiswa lesiXhosa. Asinandaba lelo mama lesejakeni noba lelaphi na, kodwa siyacela into yokuba i-constitution yethu kuzonyanzeleka singabantu besintu, ngumXhosa, ngumZulu, ntoni, siyivakashele ngoba iyasiphazamisa kwezinye izinto. I-right to know into bakhwetheni yasebakhwetheni, into kwaSontonjane yakwaSontonjane. Siyacela noko ibuhlungu le nto yenzekayo ngoku, kwenziwa amafilimu. Le nto mayiphakanyelwe ziinkosi, utata uNonkonyane nenkonyane yamaXhosa phaa azwelonke, mabayilandele le nto. Isiphethe kakubi, isiko lethu liyalahleka, ilizwe lethu lilahlekile, akusekho similo kwilizwe lethu. Enkosi.
The other thing, Nomboniso, probably for the benefit of our viewers, what Boise was saying there, the Constitution gives rights to everybody else to do what they want, and therefore the Constitution must be revisited. He also took a swipe at organizations such as Right to Know and others who are human rights organizations, which my colleagues here will address, I think. In essence, Nomboniso, what is really wrong with the depiction of customs in a movie? We see this happen on National Geographic every day with the pygmies and in Central Africa and the people of the Amazon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the point is, what I wanted to say is that we need to be very careful. African cultures are not as fragile as we make them out to be. That anything that criticizes them, that it means that they're going to fall apart. If that was so, we would have none of these customs now. They wouldn't have survived the colonial process and so on. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I think it's very important for us to accept the fact that we are not the only people who are having to grapple with our cultures, even on this continent. Zeleza and somebody else wrote a book called Sacred Spaces and Public Quarrels. And it touches exactly these kinds of issues. So let's not be so protective as if anything that is being said is going to destroy the culture. The second thing is that any culture, any custom, its greatest defender are the people who live it. Its greatest defender are the people who live it. And they will be able to live it and defend it and breathe life to it when they are able to critique it in any platform they want. I think what is happening that we don't want to admit here is that the conversation is difficult and it is uncomfortable. So we are going to call each other names, Nkosi Nonkonyane. It's not going to help. What we need to understand is, what is it that this form is trying to do? What is it that people are trying to do with this? You're right, Dumile. This is not the first time that the issue of initiation has come up and traditional leaders have complained. This issue has been on the table for many years, for decades. Let's go back to Mtuzeli Machoba, right? Let's look at how he problematizes the notion of manhood, right? Let's look at the first post-apartheid exhibition that was done by young Xhosa artists in Grahamstown, who in fact looked at their own process and came up with visual representations of that. There was nothing that was crude about that, but some of those people had to flee. They were threatened. I'm talking about people like Sobopa. I'm talking about people like Thembu Nkosi Goniwe and others. And here is the thing, that if every time a creative work, expression comes up that we don't agree with, and then we feel that we should actually shut it down, it's going to be a problem. This is why these practices are happening. And you have made a very good example of the pygmies. You can look at other African countries. In fact, the same conversation that we're having here, people are having it elsewhere, right? So culture itself can never be packaged and finished. Here is a point. Nkosi Nonkoyane says traditional leaders were at the forefront of stopping the deaths and all that. Again, I would urge the viewers to look at the history of those campaigns. A lot of people spoke, and Inkosi was saying that people should not speak, women should not speak, people who are not initiated should not speak, and yet these were people who were also affected by this. There's also distortion on the side of the traditional leaders themselves right now. Traditional leaders are not custodians of initiation. The custodians of initiation are communities and families. When families, in the part of the Eastern Cape that I come from, when families send their children to the mountain, it's the clan that is involved, and the neighbors, and Inkosi, if he is there and he wants to be part of that community. He wants to be part of that celebration. So this assumption that everything that's to do with African culture has got to be subjected to the approval of traditional leaders is in itself a distortion. And incidentally, it is a distortion that was brought by colonialism when they codified customary law.
Let's take this call from Sintu from Queenstown, Ekomani. That's a new name for that city, I'm told. While Sintu is not there, Chief, let me come back to you, Chief. What is so objectionable about this film? Because surely I've seen a similar documentary. It was a documentary on Al Jazeera on the same subject, and there was no outcry, probably because it's Al Jazeera.
Mtaka Matheza no Xabam mandithethe isintu zendivakale kakuhle mhlambi andizendivakale kakuhle ngumhlola lo kangiba ndiyebona omnye umangaliso ngoku noNgqawuse evukile ubuyalazi ibali kaNongqawuse apha kwaXhosa livukile ubuyaqonda intoba sinengqaki nje sizawutsha nasemyezweni kuyacaca uba sisengxakini simileke kuthiwa ngokwelisiko awulo lamakhosi kuthi abantu bangapha abanye abantu bangapha apha eSouth Africa bonke abantu bazingca ngobukhosi babo and njengoba sithetha sonke sisithi isiko elile labantu sivuyile ke uba abantu kwaGompo eMonti abantu eBhayi abantu eKapa bame ngenyawo beme kunye nenkosi zabo besithi hayi inxeba kambe ngoku besinomphathiswa apha wezoqhagamshelwano eMonti abefundisi ngokwabo kunye nabantu bathi base bangene basiyinqandi lento bade babulale nezo zinto apho kuba singabantu bomthetho sihlonipha umthetho woMzantsi Afrika simthanda urhulumente wethu and sathi uzawunyanzeleka sibe noqhankqalazo olusemthethweni salwenza kuqhankqalazo abantu bonke babona bonke umuntu ba lento ayilunganga. Ndifuna ukuthi ke msasazi wam omhle intoba lena into ngumhlola kamhlola ongazukwenzeka. Ikumkani ithethile yesizwe samaXhosa ekulisiko lalo eli libhenciswe apho and kuthetha umuntu othi ngumXhosa uba hayi inkosi iyabhuda. Siyayiqala ke thina siyayizibula lonto uba kuthethwe umntana omhle oyikumkani adathukwe ngabelungu siyayiqonda kodwa adathukwe ngabantu ntetho esisixhosa ngomnye ummangalisi obonakalisa mhlophe into kokuba iqhenqa labacinezeli lingenile nengcambu ekufuneka ukuba thina zinkosi kunye nabantu bakuthi basixhase sikhuphe esi sihlava kubantwana bakokwethu asibafanelanga. Ifana nento yangena kwi-askaris ngokwakusilwa amaJohn Omkhonto ubone uJohn Omkhonto lijikele i-askari sibona umhlola kamhlola apha namhlanje endicelayo umntana sekhaya uNomboniso ehlele ngasezantsi kulento ayithethayo.
Mhlakazi Enkosi, the National Executive Committee of the ANC is holding a 2-day special meeting at St. George's Hotel in Pretoria. The meeting comes at a time when there's uncertainty on whether or not it will discuss the issue of appointing the country's deputy president. Let's go to Mzwanda Mveje at Irene.
Elections, the roadmap towards 2019 elections. These are the issues we are dealing with today. We are almost halfway to finish our meeting. So our meeting is 1 day. It's not 2 days because we are able to deal with issues quite immediately.
SGTV Media from News 24. Has the President briefed the NEC about what he wants to do with regards to the cabinet? There's been a lot of talk about a cabinet reshuffle. We don't have a deputy president. Has he where he stands on that?
It's not an NEC matter. President will discuss with us and various structures, alliance partners. So it is not a matter for the NEC. It's not NEC which decides and discuss ministers who becomes what.
Is it timeline?
We will be engaging ourselves with President, yes.
SG, perhaps on a slightly separate matter, the issue of the Ingonyama Trust appears to be causing a lot of trouble. And then as the ANC, what is your response to that?
It shouldn't cause any trouble because we do respect the kings and the traditional leadership in this country. And I think our approach was that when you take land without compensation, you must be sensitive to engage in stakeholders, sensitive to agricultural production, and whatever we do, we said we must do it within the law. So there isn't anything in terms of Ingonyama Trust. We're not worried about it. There isn't such a thing now that there is a particular decision taken by the ANC. There isn't any decision.
All right. In terms of provincial leadership, Senator Sala from ANC, will you stand for another term? And in terms of the Mpumalanga as well as the other chairmanships, since they have other capacities, will they want to get into the race again?
Once you are appointed and elected to the National Executive Committee, you have reached the ceiling. You can't go back. So anybody who has been elected at the 54th National Conference cannot be a regional, branch, or provincial leader. Yeah.
SG, just for clarity, has the President briefed you on a cabinet reshuffle and the Deputy President? And can you give us a timeline as to when exactly will this decision be made?
We will still discuss that. There is no need for the President to brief the National Executive Committee on any cabinet or any other matter relating to government.
So okay, no, we are done with the questions. We are going to we will convene a briefing soon after this National Executive Committee. The Secretary General needs to go back so that he could also fulfill. We will come and meet later on. Let's go, Secretary General. At 5 o'clock when we meet, and, we will clarify.
I've also seen this tweet that Senzo is going to become full-time. Indeed, Senzo will be part of chairing organizing He will be full-time, as well as Dakota Legoete. They will be, because in the ANC now we need some of the comrades to be full-time. So Senzo and Dakota Legoete will be full-time in organizing.
But we'll give further details when we meet at 5 o'clock. Comrade Kusela will issue a statement, and then we'll go through the issues there. You can bind around, comrades.
Sure.
Good.
News at 9. We go beyond the headlines of the day's breaking news to bring you all the angles and in-depth analysis of stories. We go beyond the surface, including on how it will impact your life. Join us every day at 9 to zoom in on the day's big stories.
Welcome back from that briefing by the Secretary General of the ANC at the ANC National Executive Committee meeting taking place in Irene. Let's take this call from Sintu in Queenstown, Ekomani. Now he's gone. I want to apologize, first of all, that the Chief spoke a lot of Xhosa and I've forgotten what he was saying most of the time, and I have to keep you informed that so that you actually hear what we are talking about. A lot was said there, referring directly to you, yes, around this very issue.
Yes.
But I'm afraid there are constitutional issues in the sea.
Of course. Well, firstly, I must say, Mtanekazi, I think it's very important that we treat each other with respect. I am not going to accept being called names. I don't think that is going to take us anywhere.
Can you address the issue of constitutionality?
Yes, I'm coming to that. I am sitting here as a member of South African society that has taken decision on the constitution and adopted the constitution. And that constitution raises fundamental questions about our different rules and how those rules should be played. Firstly, I think it's very important that we accept that there is no society anywhere where everybody thinks the same and look at things the same. And that is why the Constitution protects the right of freedom of expression. Secondly, I think it's very important.
Even for the producers of the film.
Even for the producers of the film, even for the actors of the film. Particularly, I think we need to accept and understand that it is important that we protect even those with whom we disagree. That is a fundamental human rights issue. If we're not able to provide that kind of respect and that kind of protection to people in society, then the Constitution means nothing, the Bill of Rights means nothing. Secondly, a lot has been said here about what is sacred, what should be hidden. I think we need to be very, very careful that we don't use these kinds of words in order to hide practices that should not take place. Ms. Kaluva here referred earlier to the fact that 16-year-olds are children, that they shouldn't watch this film. We've yet to hear the commission talking about young women who are raped by initiates when they come back from initiation school It's called ukukhipha ifuta, to get rid of that which is dirty. We have yet to hear traditional leaders take a stand on this. Everybody knows, and this is part, it's also alluded in that movie. Everybody knows in these communities that these practices happen. The girl child who has slept, the first person who has had sexual intercourse with Ikwala, the man who has come back from the mountain, is a girl who can never be married by anybody. She's used as debt. These are things that we need to talk about. I want to make this point very clear, that I am from Fofimba, right? I grew up with this custom. I grew up understanding exactly what is happening with this custom. We went to Nkosi Bala's area during the crisis of Twala, which again traditional leaders didn't want to address until we had to push for it. We went to that place, to that village in Pondoland. Young men in Pondoland, in Nkosi Bala's area, young men in Pondoland.
Wait, just don't want us to get sidetracked.
No. This is very important. We're sitting inside the tent and telling their fathers that they must go, they must not sit in the tent because fathers have not been circumcised. All right? Because at some point, circumcision was stopped in Pondoland. These young men decided that they were going to do this. So there are levels of abuse that are happening at so many different levels. And silences are not going to help us. What we need to understand is the custom that we're protecting. And it's important that I insist that when I say the custodians of culture are people, I am not saying the communities, I am not saying traditional leaders don't have a right, but I am saying that traditional leaders cannot make the final word on what the prisoners do about their young men. And that, in fact, is custom. It comes from the custom of, I grew up amongst Abatembu and Amakaleka, and I'm neither. It comes from that custom of those people.
Let me just get Mamukhaluva here. Mamukhaluva, you have not yet had public participation in this kind of thing. You did it in Gauteng, you said earlier. But what are the things that are concerning the Commission around this issue that are associated with the movie?
The things that, maybe I should start by responding to what Unombonis was saying earlier, that we haven't spoken about the issue of Ifuta. We've done that, we've discussed it even with traditional leaders, we've discussed it in many forums where we're saying, let's look at what is bad with the system, let's look at what is working with the system. And I must say, most traditional leaders have accepted us discussing the problems at initiation schools. Although I'm a woman, they've been able to overcome.
They related to you?
Yes, and we've discussed these things honestly, we've written reports on it, they are public, they're on our website, and we've addressed most of these issues because our point of departure is that when there's an ambulance and a mortuary van, culture has long died at that point. And we're not willing to discuss where things are running smoothly and people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But as far as the movie is concerned, we've had critical discussions with people. Part of it is the right to object within the law, the right to protest and those types of things. We've discussed it with people who are protesting to say, let's remain within the boundaries of the law. But we've also discussed these issues with the producers themselves, where we're saying the challenges, for instance, are to say, when you say no secrets have been shown in the movie, you're not a custodian in this business, and you haven't even been part of it. You've just gone there as an initiate and come out. So you can't guarantee when somebody says that's a secret and it's sacred, you can't then fight about that. Let's find the language to differ. Because I think the language to differ in a respectful manner is very important. And as South Africans, we need to learn how to articulate our grief without it getting too messy.
Well, let's take this call from Sintu. We've actually got hold of Sintu in Queenstown. Sintu, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse. Yes, sir.
Andisondele pha kunomboniso. Unomboniso isiko lamaXhosa kungoko lisenzelwa endle. Asifuni kwanto ize. Asifuni kwanto isondele kubo bonke abantu. Kuyamadododwa endle malenziwe ngolhlobo laliqalwe ngalo. Siyambona uzama uyiqikozela lento ba mayiboniswe ngakunkosi unkosi nonkonyana ingaze isondezwe bonke abantu lento mayiphelele kulanda ibekwe kuyo endle zonke izinto zenziwe endle sawuhlazeka kuba singayithatha lento sizise kumuntu wonke kuba makayibone.
Enkosi masive kunkosi ubhala izinto ezithethekileyo kodwa ke ndifuna ukwazi into yokuba do the chiefs or the traditional leaders accept the kind of violence that was reported in the Eastern Cape around this film?
Around what?
Around this film, the kind of violence that was spoken about, was reported around this film. Some of the actors have been told that they received death threats.
You must understand, when people are so provoked, that's exactly what we were fearing. That is exactly why I said we had, as Contralesa, took a stand of actually embarking on a lawful demonstration. Because our people, this is an insult. When our people are insulted and they have a right to defend themselves, this is the culture of our people, and our people have got a right. And I don't think that people understand, the extent of this wound, the injury on the dignity of an African. And hence I told you that even the clergy, it clearly indicated that if this thing happened, they will actually organize their own communities to invade those cinemas and create chaos. Hence, we then said, please don't do it. And we wrote a letter and set out clearly the basis why we are objecting to this. But the owners of the films, they have not yet acceded to our request to come and discuss this matter and clearly indicate to them that they must forget about it. In South Africa, I can tell you, royalty has spoken, and it is not royalty that was spoken out of the air.
Unfortunately, we have quickly run out of time. We've come to the end of what has been a very topical issue which we still need to talk about. Writing in the Daily Maverick, Nkateko Mabaza says, and I quote, "It remains to be seen how in such a complex society as ours, issues of cultural sensitivity and freedom of speech will be dealt with in future. This is not the first time that there is contestation of two fundamental constitutional rights, and it will not be the last. Art has always posed a serious challenge to traditional and conservative views. Is there a middle ground between artistic expression of people's lived experience and the protection of a sacred way of life?" This has been the last episode of Rights and Recourse. The views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the SABC or Rights and Recourse. We'd like to thank all those who have been guests to this program, and remember, we need to discuss issues of constitutional issues and also issues around legal issues on platforms such as these. From all of us, goodbye.
Welcome to Media Monitor, the show that analyzes the big news stories that made headlines. We bring you robust discussions on stories that made headlines in the week, where we interact with media analysts to unpack these top stories. Join me every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 Central African Time as I bring you riveting news and analysis.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Corruption both in the public and the private sectors needs to be combated.
Where there are clear cases of wrong that has been done, that must commence immediately.
Something is being done about corruption in our country.
Currency, even although it's strengthened dramatically after